in ministry, if you're trying to do it all by yourself, you're doing it the wrong way. If you're trying to do everything by yourself, you're going to burn out. You're not going to last. If you're trying to do everything yourself, the church is going to grow to a cap, and then it's going to plateau and it's going to stop. And eventually it's going to decline. So in ministry, you need people around you. You need people next to you. You need people holding you up. You need people doing stuff for you. You need people who catch the vision. And so what I'd like to do, because most of you are church planners and most of you are working in churches, is I would love to share with you 5 ways to empower the team around you. Okay? I'm not going to talk about recruiting the team. I think you guys get that. You know how to encourage and get people close to you. But when they get close to you and they start working with you, one, how do you keep them, right? How do you keep them? How do you strengthen them? How do you reward them? How do you keep them around you? How do you empower them? So I'm going to give you 5 simple ways or 5 things that you can do, 5 behaviors that you as a leader can use to empower the people around you. Would that be helpful to you guys? Amen. Well, it's good that you said yes, because everybody else must be still going through a sugar coma. Well, let's look at this. In 2 Samuel 23, 8 through 39, is really the story about the story of David and his mighty men, right? David and his mighty men. And if you do a study, if you put the word mighty men in your dictionary or in your concordance or in your software system, and you look at the word mighty men, it's all over the place. It's used all over Scripture, okay? Lots of references to mighty men. But it's interesting that David's mighty men is so unique, right? David's mighty men. And in 1 Chronicles 11:10, it talks about David's mighty men, and it says this: "These were the chiefs of David's mighty warriors. They, together with all Israel, gave his kingship strong support to extend it over the whole land as the Lord had promised." I would think that whether you're a church planner or whether you've been in ministry for 20 years, you want a group of people around you that are like David's mighty men. That they are here, they gave his kingship strong support so that it would extend over the whole land. I want to help you get strong people around you so that your ministry extends even further than what you've ever even imagined. So how do you do that? Let me give you some behaviors. I've actually got like 7 things down, but if I go over my time, I'm only gonna go to 5. But if you think they're good, I may throw in the 2 other bonus ones if they still give me more time. But let's start off here. Number one thing you need to do. If you got a piece of paper and you got a pen, pull this out. I hope this helps you. Number 1, invest in trust. Invest in trust. How do you be trustworthy? Give trust. Trust other people. Invest in trust. The first thing you should do is trust. In fact, in 1 Corinthians 13, 3 and 8, we don't usually associate this passage with ministry. We usually associate this passage with marriage, right? But let me go through this. Love is patient and kind, and love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable. It keeps no record of wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. And then there's this area at the end that usually everybody knows, and this is a different version here, but it says, love never gives up. Love never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstances. The idea is love always trusts. There's this gap between what you expect people to do and the way they behave. right? And if they always behave this way, then you know what? At some point in time, you start to lose trust in them. Or if you expect them to do this and they're only doing this, in this gap here, you can fill it with one of two things: trust or suspicion. And if you want to get more into that, I would encourage you to get Andy Stanley's podcast on trust versus suspicion. Because most people will not fill that gap with trust, which is an act of love, but they will fill it with suspicion. And so with everybody around you, every individual around you that you're wanting to be part of your team, I would encourage you to say what you need to fill that gap with is trust. And trusting them is an act of love. And basically you got two buckets that you're putting coins in. You're either putting them in suspicion or you're putting them in trust. And the more coins you put in the trust bucket, the more you can do. I can't overstate the importance of developing a trust relationship among your team. Trust is the foundation, because for every organization, no matter where you are, most importantly in the church, is you will always move at the speed of trust. In fact, you'll move faster at the speed of trust than anywhere else. You're aware of this. The more trust you have, the more you can do without checking in. The more trust you have, the more the boss or the leader or you as a pastor you let people decide because you trust them. You'll know they'll get it done. There's no suspicion. There's no doubt. When you give the project to them, I know when I give that person that project, I know they're going to do it, and I know they're going to do it well. Okay? Well, how do you get there? You got to trust them, and eventually they will become trustworthy. Okay? Trust is a lot like responsibility. You try to grow up your kids with responsibility. How do you grow them up and teach them about responsibility? You keep giving them responsibility. The moment you say, "Oh, you wrecked the car," guess what? Give me the keys back. You're not driving the car again. What'd you do? You just took away their opportunity to learn responsibility. So you as a pastor, you as a leader, you want to continually give trust. Okay? Give trust. And the easiest thing about trust is you can earn a lot of trust. You can lose trust immediately, quickly. So you have to steward trust well. Trust is the emotional glue that binds any team together. It's the emotional glue. Trust produces confidence, which encourages people to take risks. Okay? It encourages people to take risks. And mistrust creates stagnation. So the number one thing you can do as a leader is trust other people. And you know what? Let me say this. It's hard, especially if you want to do it all yourself, because then it says you don't trust anybody. If you're doing all the ministry yourself, you don't trust anybody else to do it. Okay? So watch your behaviors. Here's number two. Number two is this: reward their actions. Reward their actions. Or reward their results. Whatever you want repeated, you should reward. If you want your son or daughter to continue picking up after themselves, reward them when they're doing it right. Make a big deal about it. Encourage them in it. "Oh, it was great that you picked up your clothes this week. Way to go. Let's go get some ice cream," or whatever it is. With your team, do the same thing. Whatever you want repeated in your church, whatever you want repeated around you, reward it. Recognize it. Okay? In fact, Proverbs 3:27 says this: "Do not withhold good from those who deserve it, when it is in your power to act." So one more time. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it, when it is in your power to act. Okay? Romans 13:7 says this: "Give honor and respect to those whom it is due." Are you one of those kind of team leaders that when something goes great, you take all the credit and you don't give you don't give any credit to anybody else? Or are you one of those leaders that likes to hear, wow, you guys did a great job, and you deflect it, and you go, yeah, well, thanks, and you just kind of, you let it bounce off of you? What I would say is when there's an opportunity for you to share honor, someone's crediting you as the leader, rather than deflect it, you should direct it to those who helped you get there. Okay? Don't deflect it, but direct it to those who helped you accomplish it. Reward them, because what they did, you're going to want repeated somewhere down the road. So when you get that recognition, direct it to those who need it. Okay? Whether it's recognition, responsibilities, okay? Different ways that you can reward somebody. You can have somebody stand up in the room and say, hey guys, let me tell you about what just happened. You know what? Jonathan was out here. He was in the midst of moving all these crates and moving all the chairs and setting them all up. And you know what? As he walked back out, he noticed a woman sitting over off in the corner, and he went over and he could see that she had tears in her eyes, and he went over and sat down and found out what was wrong, and he prayed with her, and she got up and walked over. And you know what? She came later as I was finishing the sermon, and I met her at the back, and she says, you know what? I love this church because your people care. Right? You just gave him recognition. And that's the kind of behavior you want repeated. Another way to recognize people is give them responsibilities. Give them greater responsibilities than what they have right now. That's a boost up. That's a boost to the ego. That's a boost to the confidence that when you say, you know what, you've done well in these little things and been faithful. Now let me give you a little bit more. That's a reward. I think Jesus said that to us, didn't he? If you've been faithful in much, you'll be faithful in more, right? What's another thing you can do? You can give them remuneration, right? You can give them a bonus. You can give money. I wouldn't lead with it all the time. Because once you start giving people money like that, and you start giving them a lot of money, then it becomes all about the money. And you have to condition their heart. And you have to condition their heart to love people, not love money. So I'd be careful with that one, but it's a good reward. Another one, how about giving them the gift of relaxation? Right? Give people some time off. Okay? Or reimbursement. In fact, Romans 12:2 or 12:10 says this, let us have real warm affection for one another and a willingness to let the other man have the credit. The best leaders are the ones who don't deflect the honor, but they direct the honor to those who should get it. Okay? So, two of the first things you can do. 1, invest in trust. 2, reward their actions. Here's another one. 3, open up communication. Now, this one seems kind of simple, okay? But open up communication. It's one of the biggest things that encourages and develops trust. Open up communication. In fact, Proverbs 18:20 says this, you will have to live with the consequences of everything you say. Okay? Poor communication is the number one cause of problems among people. Right? It's the number one cause of problems in marriages. It's the number one cause of problems in friendships. Right? Bad communication or poor communication. When someone is not adequately informed, they're usually down on your idea. Okay? Or put more succinctly, people are always down on what they're not up on. Okay? People are always down on what they're not up on. When you can include people at the beginning of the conversation, they may not have input into it, but when you're sharing the vision and you're sharing what we need to do and the why we need to do it and the direction we're going, they have a lot more grace for things with you and their behavior and everything else because you've included them. It's another action of trust. In fact, on the other hand, when you look at this, a group of people has tremendous power if they can communicate clearly with one another. There's a great example in Genesis chapter 11 related to the Tower of Babel, right? These people, they were talking to each other, building the tower, and God went, whoa, I don't know if we want this. And so he changed all the languages. He changed the communication of everybody. It's interesting that the way he disrupted the progress was to change their communication. It's the one thing in ministry that takes a lot of energy and does take time and does take practice. Now, you guys know this, that in any marriage, the moment the two stop talking, the marriage is over. It's the same things, it's the same in politics, it's the same in national leadership, it's the same between friends. The moment you stop talking, the relationship is generally over. But the more you pursue the communication, the more likely you'll come to a solution. And what I would say in situations like that would be this: in communication, pursue clarity, but not at the cost of unity. Now, why would I say it that way? Well, because sometimes when you start communicating, two people might disagree. And in the midst of disagreement, just keep talking. And in the disagreement, the reason why you say pursue clarity but not at the cost of unity is because when conversation gets heated, it can often get personal. And the moment you get personal, you kill the relationship and you kill unity. And God can do a lot of stuff through broken people, but he cannot do a lot of stuff through a disunified people. Okay? So in that, pursue it. Let me give you 3 common blocks to open communication. The first one is presumption. Proverbs 18:13 says this: it's stupid to decide before knowing the facts. It's stupid to decide before knowing the facts. Okay? Here are some assumptions that have gotten me in trouble with people around me. That there's only one way to see things. That everyone thinks like me. That I know people's motives. And that people stay the same. Those 4 assumptions, those 4 things have gotten me in trouble more times than anything else, and I think you guys can agree. And when you look at these, that there's only one way to see things, well, you know right off the bat, there isn't. But when you go in assuming that there is, it's disruptive to communication. That everyone thinks like you? Nope, they don't. That you think you know everybody's motives? I can barely understand my own, let alone those around me. And people never stay the same. So I'm always learning. The hardest thing to open is a closed mind. What's another block? Impatience. In fact, James 1:19 says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. Do you know that we can listen to 650 words a minute, but we only speak at a rate of 150 words a minute? Right? Men, you know about this. When your wife comes home and she's talking at you, right? You can comprehend it all. And then when you turn around and start talking, she's like, come on. Keep up with me. Okay? The Bible says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. Another thing that blocks open communication is this, and that's pride. Pride. It makes us defensive, and often at that moment we stop listening. In fact, Proverbs 13:10 says this: pride is the source of conflict. It says, where there is strife, there is pride, but wisdom is found in those who take advice. Where there is strife, there is pride. Generally, when you have a conflict, there's a pride moment on one of the two sides. And for you as a team leader, you need to open up your communication so that you can keep things moving forward. So, number 1, invest in trust. 2, reward their actions. 3, Open up your communication. And here's number 4. Manage energy, not time. Let me say that one more time. Manage energy, not time. Okay? The quickest way to destroy a team is to burn them out. In fact, Proverbs 14:30 says, "A relaxed attitude lengthens a man's life." Every minute of the day, we're using up energy. Every person has a limited amount of energy. You guys know this. You've watched it. You start getting to work, and all of a sudden somebody's got to sit down, or they've got to do something else, or they don't have the same rhythms as you do in the day. I would say watch your energy, manage your energy, so that you can use your energy at the best moments and get the most out of it, rather than going in, blocking out your entire day, filling up your calendar with meetings. And you guys have seen it. You guys have seen the pastor roll into the 7th meeting of the day. The dude is brain dead already, right? He doesn't want to talk about anything. But somehow he's blocking out and he's managing his time, and he's watching the clock and not watching his energy. If meetings take energy out of you, stop going to meetings. Okay? Go to one meeting. Reduce the amount of meetings. Here's another thing. This one's a bit more difficult, okay? But it's really helpful. Around you, you have 2 kinds of people. You have energy drainers and you have energy givers. If you put a lot of energy drainers around you, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be tired all the time. When you bring in people, volunteers, people that are there to build a team, bring on and build a team of people who bring you life rather than people who suck the life out of you. Does that make sense? That you've only got so much energy. And as a team, all that energy should be a collective energy to do more things, to do more work, to serve more ministry. But if you've got a lot of people around you who are sucking the energy out of you, I'm sorry, but I would say move them on. Move them to another area. Okay? Because you're only going to be able to hold and hang on to it for so long. Eventually, over time, it will frustrate you, it will irritate you, and you know what? When you're in that condition and you're fatigued, you will do something that will be disruptive to the relationship. And it may not be good. So know about it ahead of time, be aware of it, and deal with it as you go. Here's some suggestions to manage energy, not time. Number 1, don't expect every person on your team to work at the same energy level you do. Don't expect everybody to work at the same energy level you do all of the time. It's unrealistic. We're all made differently, okay? We all have different amounts of energy. Here's another suggestion. Be aware of external drains on energy and compensate for it. Okay? If you know you're going to go into a meeting with an energy drainer or talking about an energy draining emotional situation, then after that's done, don't go into a meeting where you're deciding the future of the church in the next meeting. You're not in a good, healthy situation to do that. Fatigue makes cowards out of all of us, and fatigue makes us make terrible decisions. So take the time to know, be aware of the external drains on your energy and compensate for it, okay? Give yourself the opportunity to get your battery refreshed before you go into another really important meeting. Reschedule it, okay? Reschedule it. Give yourself some time to regain your energy before going into it and making a bad decision because you're low on energy. Number 3, plan your year in cycles. The moment you get into ministry and after you've gone through 1 or 2 seasons of ministry, and when I mean seasons, I mean years, you're going to see the ebbs and flow of ministry. And you're going to know when to put your foot on the gas and when to step away. If you want to learn more about this, study the stops of Jesus throughout the Gospels. For 3 years, Jesus did a lot of stuff, but when did he stop? What did he do? How did he step away? Jesus' whole ministry is a season and a series of advancing movements and then withdrawals, advancing movements and then withdrawing, okay, to manage his energy. Number 4, allow for flexible schedules, okay? The idea that everybody works from 9 to 5 and you got to keep everybody in the same room and, you've got to know that they're filling up that calendar, it's unrealistic, okay? It's unrealistic. And actually, it communicates a lack of trust. If everybody's got to be in the same room at the same time doing ministry from 9 to 5, right? It doesn't work that way. Everybody's got different energy cycles, and everybody refills their energy and their battery differently. And again, it's another way to communicate trust and build up and empower your team. And last but not least, in this area of suggestions, I would say focus on the long haul. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So as you work with the people around you, focus on the long haul. Know that you can do things in sprints, and sometimes you can stop and walk for a while. Then you can get up and sprint, and then you can walk for a while, and then you may jog for a season. Always keeping the long haul in your vision. Okay. Number 4. This one's important from the area of trying to multiply yourself, and that is train the people around you in your values and in different skills. Develop the skills of the people around you. In fact, in Ecclesiastes 10:10, it says this: if the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. Okay? Skill will bring success. Train the people around you. Train their skills. Teach them how to do things. Teach them your value system. Okay? That way you teach them how to make good decisions within the framework of your values. As a pastor, one of the best things you can do is investing the time training people to think the way you do about the family that you have to take care of. Use every good moment to train and reinforce the positive. Use every bad moment to train and reinforce the positive. As a pastor, you should train your way out of every negative and hurtful situation. If there's a moment in your church or a season in your church where you are down, where you are under the weather, where maybe the church budget isn't doing good, teach your people out of that. Teach them how to get out of that. Give them the eyesight and the vision and the skills to get them out of it. In fact, Proverbs 24:16 says this: for though a righteous man falls 7 times, he rises again. In any situation, when you give an opportunity to fail or an opportunity to do something and they fail, after they've done it, give them some coaching, give them some training, and let them do it again and watch what happens. And finally, Matthew 28:19 through 20, you guys know, it's a great commission, and it's this: therefore go and make disciples in all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, that I am with you always, even to the end of the world. The Great Commission is a training commission. You go out and you teach them to do the things that Jesus commanded them to do. You don't do it for them. You train them how to do it on their own. So let me give a quick review. Again, the 5 things that you can do. Number 1, invest in trust. At the very foundation, invest in trust. Number 2, reward their actions and their results. Number 3, open up the communication. Spend time talking things through. Spend time talking in the group. Number 4, manage energy, not time. Manage energy, not time. And number 5, train values and skills. Train them in your values and their skills. These 5 things will empower the people around you so that you can give them tasks, so that you can give them projects, so that you can give them ministry to do, and you don't have to do it all yourself, and that there will extend the life and the influence of your ministry. Thanks a lot for letting me talk tonight.